Not one person on that stage could have predicted what Andrei was about to do. Cameras were rolling. Everyone was tense, but it felt like the usual tell-all chaos, until Andrei calmly stood up, reached into his blazer, and pulled out actual divorce papers. He didn't blink, he didn't wait for a commercial break. He told Elizabeth, right there under the hot lights, in front of the entire cast and the millions watching at home, that their marriage was over. And he was filing. Right now. For a moment, there was dead silence. Then came the sound of Elizabeth gasping, not crying, not yelling, but gasping like the air had been sucked out of her lungs. Her hands started shaking, her face turned red, and she couldn't even form words at first. Cameras didn't cut away. The stage didn't intervene. Suddenly, this wasn't about drama anymore. This was a woman completely blindsided, having a full-blown collapse. It wasn't entertainment, it was heartbreak unfolding in real time. Andrei showed no emotion. None. No regret, no pain, just cold, practiced steps like this was a business transaction, not the end of a family. Elizabeth could barely breathe. They'd shared a child. They'd traveled through multiple seasons of struggle, false starts, therapy, yelling matches with her family. And now he was ending it mid-filming. As if all of that weighed nothing. No humanity, no warning, no dignity. Here's what didn't make it to the official narrative. While Elizabeth clutched her chest, a producer reportedly signaled to cut to commercial, and it was Andrei who said, "No, let it roll." He wanted this on camera. He wanted the world to see her break. And in that moment, questions exploded. Was this always his plan? Did he come into this reunion prepped to humiliate her? Had all of their recent social media posts, the family photos, the sweet captions, been staged for damage control? Was he building a case before going in for the kill? Viewers who have followed this couple from season to season started replaying every fight in their heads. The aggression, the manipulation, the subtle domination games. Had the signs been there all along and we just didn't want to see it? Or did something happen off camera that fractured everything beyond repair? Was this someone snapping? Or someone strategizing? The cast sat frozen. Even Sean looked stunned. Andrei didn't sit back down. He stood tall, allowing the air to sit so heavy that you could sense the crew rethinking everything they thought would happen that night. It wasn't about catching up or resolving old fights anymore. This was a man detonating a live grenade into the show. Elizabeth's makeup streamed down her face. She looked not just heartbroken but betrayed. Like someone who hadn't just lost her husband, but every sense of control, identity, and hope she had clung to for the last 5 years. Her sister tried to reach for her, but she waved her off. There was something rare happening, a kind of emotional free fall. She whispered something that didn't get picked up by mics, but her lips read, "Why would he do this now?" And you could tell, she genuinely had no idea. No prenup, no emotional buffer, no prep. She truly walked into that studio thinking they were in this together. And then, just when you thought it had reached peak cruelty, Andrei turned his attention across the room, locked eyes with Jovi, and without blinking, said something that made Yara collapse into tears. A single sentence that shifted attention from his own disaster to someone else's. He said, "At least I wasn't out in strip clubs behind my wife's back while she was alone with our kid." Yara's face dropped, Jovi visibly tensed. That's when the entire temperature of the studio changed. Eyes were no longer on the collapsing marriage, they were now bouncing between two crumbling relationships. And that's when everything started unraveling. Yara didn't move at first. Her body froze like she didn't hear it right, but she did. Everyone did. What Andrei said wasn't vague, it wasn't subtle, it was a direct hit and it landed hard. Jovi didn't even try to deny it at first. He sat stiff, jaw clenched, eyes darting around like he was waiting for a camera cue that never came. He was exposed, and not in the flirty party boy way he normally plays off. This was different. This was real. You could see it in Yara's face before the tears came. Her brain working overtime, trying to connect what she'd suspected in quiet moments with what had just been said out loud. She had asked Jovi before. He'd always had answers. Half-truths delivered with charm. But this wasn't coming from rumors or blogs. This was someone inside their circle throwing him under the bus on live TV. Andrei didn't flinch. He called out nights in New Orleans when Jovi reportedly went MIA during filming breaks, places he'd been seen, allegedly, with people who weren't production staff, and the way he said it didn't sound like theory. It sounded like fact, specific, measured, like he'd been sitting on it, waiting, biding time, and for what? What made him use this moment to go scorched earth? Yara's tears started falling slowly, but her breathing quickened. She looked to Jovi for an explanation, and he offered the worst possible response, silence. Just long, awkward silence. Any other time, he'd crack a dumb joke to deflect, try to lighten the mood, flirt his way out of it. But whatever this was, it had no punchline. He was cornered, and then finally he spoke. "I didn't think it mattered anymore." That's what he said, straight face, no feeling, and Yara, she cracked. "Didn't matter." Her voice rose, trembling as she repeated the words. "Didn't matter to who?" She wasn't even crying now, she was shaking. Betrayal doesn't always come with screams. Sometimes it sinks in like slow poison. From the sidelines, a few cast members exchanged looks. This wasn't the normal messiness. This had weight. Andrei sat back down, smug, like he'd done what he came to do, but the damage wasn't over. That one accusation triggered a wave of flashbacks that reframed everything fans thought they knew. Suddenly, scenes from earlier seasons start playing differently. The tension during that Ukraine trip, Yara's lonely expression during pregnancy, her constantly questioning Jovi's party lifestyle while trying to build a home, and the way he always shifted the blame or brushed off her concerns. It all came back, but this time, layered with doubt. Maybe she wasn't being dramatic. Maybe she was being gaslit. Every sarcastic comment Jovi made about, "It's just me being me," hit harder. The late-night disappearances, the annoyed looks when she pushed for more intimacy, more stability. It stopped reading as incompatibility and started reading as avoidance. And if this secret, whatever it specifically was, happened while she was pregnant or postpartum, the emotional damage would cut even deeper. Yara tried to keep it together. She reached for her mic but couldn't find the words. And while producers circled behind her, she stood up quietly. No yelling, no dramatic storm off. She just whispered, "I need air," and walked off the set. What's critical is what happened after she passed through those black curtains. Because seconds later, caught in a quick, unscripted camera cut, someone followed her off stage. And it wasn't Jovi. It was Elizabeth, the same woman who had just been publicly humiliated and emotionally leveled by her own husband. She followed Yara out, two women in shock, walking different paths of heartbreak, but both cracked open. And backstage, that is where something shifted, not just in the drama, but in how these storylines were about to collide. Something about how calm Andrei was through the entire thing didn't sit right. Not just controlled, calculated. Like filing live on stage wasn't an unhinged decision, but a chess move he'd been planning for months. And if that's the case, the question then becomes, why? Was it justice? Or was this pure punishment posing as truth? For years, Andrei's been known for explosive energy, hot temper, blunt mouth. Fans know the drill, but this wasn't that. This wasn't impulsive rage. This was a man following a script written in his head. You could see it in his delivery. He knew what to say, how to say it, and when to hit hardest. No stutters, no emotion, no hesitation. Which takes us from emotional mess to something colder, strategy. That's where the psychology cracks open. When people look back, they won't see a man heartbroken or exhausted. They'll see a man executing, and that, deep down, is more disturbing. Because if it was all a plan, then every smile in their recent family photos, every public show of unity, was a lie. For him to pull this off publicly and humiliate Elizabeth that completely, he had to be planning it while still sleeping beside her. And then comes the deeper suspicion. Why the stage? Why here? He could have filed off camera. He could have done it privately. Instead, he chose this. Not only did he strip her of control, he made sure the world watched her unravel. That's when longtime fans start to echo a darker question. Was this about Elizabeth at all, or always about power? And it's not just power in their marriage, it's power over her family, her father, her sisters, her perception. This isn't the first time Andrei forced his way on screen as the dominant voice. He's challenged her family's intelligence, their loyalty, even their place in Elizabeth's life. Repeatedly, publicly, proudly. Remember the infamous family therapy sit-down? Those glances he gave Elizabeth's sisters, like they weren't even worth his time. Or when he refused to back down during a business interaction with her dad, acting like the entire thing was a power play. He didn't just want to be heard, he wanted to erase anyone else's opinion. People brushed it off then, said it was cultural, said it was confidence, some even praised him for standing his ground. But in hindsight, those moments start to look like a pattern, not of strength, but of control building. Each time the spotlight was on someone else, Andrei found a way to center himself. Even outside the show, sources close to production mentioned that he was difficult to work with unless the storyline ran in his favor. But on this tell-all stage, he wasn't just reclaiming attention. He was rewriting the script entirely, destroying the family perception in one public blow. Then comes another twist. What if this wasn't entirely a solo plan? Cameras cut to Elizabeth during rehearsal footage filmed earlier that day. And this never aired in full broadcast, but a clip started to circulate online, her standing alone backstage with a coffee and production mic attached, knowing she's already mic'd. She looks at a producer and for a second smirks. It's quick. It's subtle, maybe harmless, But now, it reads different. Because if she knew what was coming, even loosely, then this wasn't a betrayal, it was a performance. A stunt, maybe even an agreement. That moment, barely 2 seconds long, sent the entire fandom into a spiral. What were we really watching? A real collapse? A toxic marriage imploding? Or two people staging chaos for the highest level of attention in a final-hour contract play? And if it was fake, if there was any part of it rehearsed, who are we really sympathizing with? It doesn't take long to forget just how much Elizabeth has been through, or how often her loyalty has been split in pieces, depending on which crisis was hitting harder, Andrei's temper swings or her family's cold judgment. Fans have watched her move between those two emotional battlegrounds for years, but now, seeing her crawl through this public ending, it's all starting to feel darker in hindsight. Remember that Florida family cookout, the one where Elizabeth's sisters cornered her, accusing Andrei of isolating her, calling him dangerous, while she stood there defending him through clenched teeth? That wasn't a one-off. Those scenes kept happening, varied in location, same in tone. Her family would raise real concerns, sometimes aggressively, and every time she played mediator, always walking the tightrope, always saying, "He's not like that at home," even when the footage showed he was. The audience bought into Elizabeth's side then, mostly out of empathy. She seemed caught in a tug-of-war she didn't ask for, but looking back now, it's hard not to ask, how many apologies were real and how many were rehearsed? How often was Elizabeth choosing peace, and how often was she choosing silence just to survive the chaos? Because we've seen the cycle. Andrei would explode shouting in meetings, storming out during filming, icing out her family with smug dominance. Then came the soft resets, a baby announcement, a sweet vacation, a ring upgrade, quiet breakfasts filmed like they were normal life, happy captions, filtered life. It wasn't necessarily fake, but it wasn't fully honest either. It was a cycle, one built on big blow-ups followed by bigger makeups, and it looked familiar. This is where emotional erosion creeps in. Love bombing laced with control. Not grand gestures out of love, but out of reset, out of strategy. Every time things fell apart, Andrei reset the tone, not with accountability, but with gifts and production-perfect moments. And for a while, it worked. Until now, it's not diagnosis, it's behavior. Repeated patterns of control through chaos, a storm followed by a smile. And Elizabeth, caught between her survival instinct and her public image, kept choosing the version that looked cleaner on camera. Even those tearful confessions she gave in season 5 felt different in hindsight. Back then, when she cried about her family sabotaging her marriage, viewers sympathized. But was that crying for a choice she was defending, or a trap she was stuck in? And here's the shift that cracked through. Every time her family leaned in to help, even if clumsy, Andrei pushed them back harder. He created isolating loyalty tests. It's me or them. And she kept choosing him, not because she didn't love her family, but because it was easier to manage one dictator than 3 unpredictable critics. But now, everything breaks open with one memory that's resurfaced, an unaired moment featured in the Tell All replay sessions. Libby, filmed weeks before this explosive reunion, during a heated private argument logged by production, looked straight at Andrei and said, "Don't leave me. I'll fix it, I promise I'll fix it." He didn't hug her, he didn't say, "I love you," he didn't even blink, he just said, "We'll see." That's the version of Andrei we're seeing now on the Tell All stage. Cold, distant, calculating. And the version of Libby, a woman used to begging in private and performing stability in public. Now, fans are starting to piece it together. Maybe this wasn't just a marriage ending. Maybe we've been watching it collapse in slow motion for years. When the dust started to settle after Elizabeth left the stage, the focus shifted, but not toward healing. It got colder, quieter, and in that silence something else began to unravel. The alliances, the unspoken loyalties. Who stood with who when no one's lines were being scripted? The energy in the studio was strange. Not explosive like before, tense in a different way. Some cast members stopped making eye contact with Andrei altogether, as if distancing themselves from whatever mess he'd just unleashed. Others leaned in, nodding subtly, not out of support but recognition, like they'd seen it coming. Then there was Sean Robinson, steering the ship with that calm, composed energy she always brings, but her eyes said more than her words ever would. She asked what the audience was thinking without speaking it directly. Her glance to Jovi didn't demand an answer. It asked whether there was anything left to salvage, whether there was a version of him that could still be trusted. And when she looked toward the far edge of the set where Elizabeth had run off, there was no script left to follow, only raw consequence. But what didn't make it to the broadcast was what happened during the next backstage reset. A few cameras kept rolling, and someone from production later confirmed 2 key things. Elizabeth didn't want to come back, and someone we didn't expect was the first to follow her out, not one of her sisters, not a producer, but Kalani. No dramatics, no consoling speeches. She just sat down beside Elizabeth silently, which says almost everything. She chose a side. Moments later, Yara reappeared to grab her bag, but her face was different. Not broken. Not crushed. Cold. Blank. Like something inside her had shut off. Whatever sympathy she had for herself was now being redirected, and according to a producer leak, that shift had a target, Jovi. When filming resumed, the vibe was off. The group dynamic had fractured. You could see couples sitting differently, not holding hands, not leaning in to whisper. Andrei, who had just dominated the spotlight, now felt oddly exposed without Elizabeth next to him. He looked less powerful, more performative. And then there was a Sulu who'd said next to nothing all season. Always off to the side, always playing it safe with his facial expressions. But now, eyes forward, hands in his lap, he spoke up. Not loud, not dramatic, just clear enough for everyone to hear. I heard him talking about the papers like 2 months ago before the cameras. Every head whipped toward him, even the crew. Andrei's jaw tightened, but he didn't deny it. Because now, the room wasn't trying to figure out whether what happened was right or wrong. The room was trying to figure out how many of them had been lied to. How many had smiled for pictures, clinked drinks at wrap parties, shared behind-the-scenes solidarity, only to realize one of their own had been playing long-game betrayal. What looked like a sudden wreck had been brewing in silence. And someone had just confirmed it with the simplest truth. This wasn't spontaneous heartbreak. It was premeditated. When the cameras cut to commercial and Andrei sat back down like nothing had happened, Elizabeth was already far from the stage, clutching her chest in a hallway that had no soundproofing and no dignity. A leaked clip, shot from someone holding a phone behind a production barrier, caught her crouched on the floor outside the set, trying to breathe through what looked like a panic spiral. Medics weren't rushing in. No handlers stepping over themselves to help. Just a woman alone, blinking through failing composure while everyone else debated whether to keep filming. Later, producers would claim she was resting and needed privacy, but that edit didn't hold for long. Within 24 hours, clips from crew gossip, seat fillers, and even hairstylists started leaking online. Short bursts of chaos, blurry captures of her voice cracking, someone handing her tissues, another staff member half whispering, "He actually did it." That's when the fans took over. TikTok detectives, Reddit hunters. They pulled timestamps from backstage footage, matched outfits to hotel halls, matched shadows to lighting. And the portrait it painted was devastating, not just of a woman blindsided, but of the cold machine around her that let it happen. What didn't make it to air? A moment where Elizabeth reportedly asked if she could just leave with her daughter and skip the rest. A producer off-screen allegedly told her, "Let's just get your reaction in a chair, and then you're done." She declined. She wasn't acting, she was barely functioning. Not long after that, her sister Jen posted and deleted a story. One post, white background, black font. They could have pulled the plug on that scene. They knew. They didn't. It got screenshotted in seconds. Hundreds of shares, thousands of comments, and nobody bought the excuse that it was only about editing. Fans started threading the theory that producers, or someone in the higher-ups, knew about Andrei's plan before he ever got to set, that he might have informed them, or at least hinted, and they let him do it anyway, because shock delivers views, trauma sells, and what does it do to someone to realize your marriage didn't just end, it premiered? It's a strange kind of grief, not just heartbreak, but exposure. One minute, Elizabeth was sitting backstage running lines about how she hoped the reunion would bring clarity between everyone. The next, she's watching strangers share slowed-down clips of her lip trembling, rating her cry in side-by-side comparisons with past episodes. Then came the quiet. 3 days off social media. No posts, no comments, not even a pinned story, and when she finally did reappear, one single video, no sound, no caption, just Elizabeth lying in bed, no makeup, staring into the camera with moisture still gathering in her lashes. No effort to filter it out, no red eyes hidden, no glam squad, just silence. And in that silence, more truth than any segment aired. As the final credits of the Tell All rolled and studio lights dimmed, a different kind of tension took over. Not the rehearsed kind fed through confessionals and soundbites, but real tension. No script, no safety nets. Because once the cameras stopped, there were no more roles to play. People either left together or they didn't. Multiple outlets reported that Elizabeth didn't speak to Andrei at all after filming Wrapped. No debrief, no ride, nothing. He stayed behind for the wrap dinner with his mic still dangling off his collar, laughing over drinks like he hadn't just detonated his own marriage. Meanwhile, Elizabeth left in a black SUV, not with cast or crew but with her sister. And silence. Jovi and Yara weren't far behind, but even their departure said something. According to one background staffer, they walked out at the same time, but in total silence. No hand-holding, no inside jokes. Yara was ahead, scrolling furiously on her phone. Jovi followed, stiff, blank-faced. When asked how she was holding up, Yara reportedly said only one word. Done. That looked like a throwaway comment, just exhaustion from the night. But less than 10 hours later, fans noticed Yara had changed her Instagram bio, removing wife, leaving only mother. It didn't take long for posts to follow. Her next two stories were clear without being direct. The first was a black screen with text, "There's pain," and then "There's betrayal in front of the world." The second, a repost of a follower's response saying, "You didn't deserve that humiliation," with Yara simply adding a heart. You didn't need to be fluent in subtext to know exactly who it was about. Jovi's first move was different. He didn't delete pictures, he didn't take sides. He posted a clip of him taking their daughter out to eat, captioned, "Just us two." It looked innocent. But fans read between the lines. More subtle signs followed. No photos together, no comments on each other's posts. What had once been flirty banter and inside jokes turned into a cold algorithm battle, each quietly maintaining their digital real estate while clearly operating on separate schedules. And then Elizabeth's dad finally broke his silence, but not with a video. Not with a crying fit or camera-ready rant like some viewers expected. He posted a one-paragraph note, trying to stay above the mess. Supportive, careful, respectful of both sides. But tucked inside 9 perfectly crafted sentences was one word that blew it all wide open. He wrote, "I'm disappointed by how things were handled." Handled, not occurred, not exploded, handled. Fans didn't miss it. It read like a whistleblow, like someone trying to support his daughter without fully lighting the match, but still drawing the line. Behind closed doors, the fallout continued. One cast member unfollowed Andrei. Another reposted one of Jen's deleted tweets. Private group chats were allegedly screenshot and sold to outlets. Even production insiders started speaking anonymously. That's when the bombshell dropped. Someone from inside the post-reunion edit suite leaked that producers discussed cutting the divorce scene completely. According to the message, they were aware it would alienate viewers, that it could damage Elizabeth long-term, that it risked dragging the network into backlash they weren't equipped to weather. But the leak added one brutal truth. They didn't cut it, because the drama was too compelling, because viewership mattered more than fallout. And once that truth hit the fandom, everything changed. Suddenly, people stopped just questioning Andrei. They started questioning the structure around him. By the time the dust settled and the clips went viral, the question wasn't just about what happened between Andrei and Elizabeth, it became something larger. Something sticky. Are fans watching real relationships fall apart? Or are they being served moments engineered to explode on cue? Because here's what started trickling in. Rumors from set staff that Andrei had been circling another project. Whispers of a potential spin-off, something separate from Elizabeth, something focused on fatherhood or his so-called journey post-divorce. Nothing officially confirmed, but close watchers saw the signs. A shift in his social strategy, tighter branding, select followbacks, and strangely polished captions for someone who normally blasts people in all caps. And if that theory holds water, it rewires everything. This wasn't just an emotional implosion, it was a launch pad. It wouldn't be the first time. Longtime fans remember when Larissa and Colt's nuclear-level fights suddenly gave way to her OnlyFans debut and a fast-paced rebranding. Or when Chantal and Pedro's broken marriage conveniently timed itself around the launch of the family Chantal. It's a rhythm audiences have seen before, many times, but never this raw, and never this public. Still, not every fan thinks it was performance. Some believe what happened to Elizabeth was too visceral, too messy to have been fake. You can't act like that with blood rushing to your face, shaking breath, uneven sobs. If it was a show, it was the kind that leaves scars even after the cameras stop rolling. Others aren't so sure. They point to the deleted posts, the strange smirk backstage, and the delayed reactions from cast members who always seem eerily prepared for the next twist. Many believe Andrei knew exactly how to trigger maximum engagement, drop a live divorce, transfer the spotlight to a cheating scandal, and detonate chaos in less than an hour. Feels less like a meltdown, more like viral choreography. And here's where the audience really splits. One side feels enraged, protective of Elizabeth, and heartbroken on Yara's behalf. The other side watches the patterns, scrolls the timing of the press drops, and says, they're playing the long game, and we keep buying in. The problem is, both sides might be right. Because the line between real and reality TV has never been thinner. When the show's biggest disasters turn into someone's next brand, or new spin-offs just happen to appear after the most toxic reveals, the message becomes clear. Pain, when framed by the right angles, prints money. Andrei may be cold. He may have destroyed his family in 1 hour of filming. But he's also trending. He's being talked about in threads, on podcasts, in DMs between viewers who don't even watch every season. That's monetizable chaos. Whether orchestrated or not, it's now marketable. But what fuels the fire even more is the uncertainty. Because if TLC had a say in keeping the cameras rolling during that breakdown, if producers debated cutting the moment, then aired it anyway, we aren't witnessing a relationship falling apart. We're watching a format being perfected. Still, some people hold out hope. Maybe Andrei regrets it. Maybe Elizabeth's silence isn't strategy, it's healing. Maybe Jovi and Yara are working things out. But that's the hook they always leave us with, isn't it? That tiny gap between what we see and what we think is coming next. And it's in that space, uncertain, unfinished, unconfirmed, that this show keeps its grip. If they stayed together or split for good, would you even believe them now?